Lia Thomas is one of the main people who sparked this whole trans athletes in sports conversation. Should the men play with the men? Should the women play with the women? And obviously, in my opinion, the answer is yes. The biological women should play with the biological women, and the same for the men. You know, it should just be like that for the safety of everyone, for the fairness of everyone. It should just be like that. I think it's kind of common sense, but like everyone likes to say, common sense isn't so common anymore. And Lia Thomas kind of disappeared for a while, kind of stopped talking in public, kind of stopped doing interviews, and all of a sudden, Lia Thomas is back appearing on interviews like crazy. Here is a clip from Lia Thomas. It's a wild one. Lia Thomas appears, and this is, by the way, from Ollie London's Twitter account. Lia Thomas appears on a podcast interview trying to push for men to be allowed in women's sports ahead of Biden administration's push to amend Title IX. Let's check out this clip from Lia Thomas.
Lia, as a woman, as a trans woman, whatever, we respect her identity. We just don't think it's fair. You can't really have that sort of half support where you're like, oh, I respect you as a woman here, but not here.
What if I told you, I don't respect your identity. I'm not a feminist. I don't like feminism at all. And I still think that you shouldn't be in women's sports because you are a man. What if I told you that? Would that make it more plausible?
Using the guise of feminism to sort of push transphobic beliefs. And I think a lot of people in that camp sort of carry an implicit bias against trans people, but don't want to, I guess, fully manifest or speak that out. And so they try to just play it off as this sort of half support.
They think about how twisted feminism, quote unquote, feminism has become. Their arguments, you know, in order to exclude anybody in the trans category, you have to reduce women to reproductive capacity, which is, in my opinion, extremely anti-feminist. I don't want to put those women down.
It's not reducing them to reproductive capacity. It's reducing them to being biologically female, being biologically women. Like that, it's so easy. It's such common sense, but once again, it's not so common. But it's just simply for the safety of people, for the fairness and safety of people. I mean, look what's happening in women's MMA fighting. Like there's serious injuries, cracked skulls, like multiple. I'm pretty sure one person who was identifying as female or was identifying as a woman was participating in women's MMA and cracked multiple skulls. Like it's an extremely serious safety hazard. And it needs to be discussed. This person, they're both wearing shirts. They say trans people belong in sports, and nobody's saying the other. Like nobody's saying the contrary. Nobody's saying that trans people can't play sports. Just play in the sport, in the category that you are biologically born into, and then we have no issue at all. The issue is whenever you try to cross over, and you never see it the other way. You never see women trying to compete in male sports. I wonder why that is. Why do you think that is? It's because it's extremely hard for women to compete in male sports. It's almost impossible, especially at a high level, at a collegiate level or professional level. It's pretty much impossible for a woman to transition to a male and go and compete in male sports. It's pretty much impossible. It's just not going to work. It's going to be a safety hazard. It's going to be unfair. That's why they don't do it that way. But for some reason, even though we know that women going to men's sports is a safety hazard and extremely unfair to the woman, so they don't do it, but we allow the men to go into the women's sports, whereas the top women would never even try to go into the male sports. But now the top women are just chilling. They're just minding their own business in their own field. They're just chilling there. And all of a sudden a top male or a mediocre male comes in and transitions to women's sports, and they're all of a sudden at the top of all the top women who wouldn't even dream of competing against the males because they know better. It doesn't make any sense. It's a safety hazard. And like I said, it's extremely unfair to those women who have worked very hard to reach their biological peak. They can't really get much better once you're at a top professional level or a collegiate level. It's hard to get any better than that. They've reached the capacity of the female body to be more athletic. They've reached that capacity, and now a man comes in who has a much higher capacity for the athletic side of things and just ruins the entire sport. Just ruins it for everybody, man. So let's check out the rest of this clip, and we'll get deeper into that discussion.
On either, and I know you don't want to either, because I see pain. I see pain, and the pain is coming from somewhere. It's not you though; it's the patriarchy. And how can we?
The pain is coming from the cracked skulls of the biological women who are competing against biological men in MMA. That's where the pain is coming from. You retard. Yeah, it's coming from the patriarchy. The pain is coming from the patriarchy. Dude, everything's the patriarchy's fault. These people are ill. Mentally sick. And Ollie London also tweeted this out. I do find this interesting. Have you noticed within the last month, Lia Thomas is suddenly doing multiple interviews pushing Title IX amendments to allow biological men in women's sports? Lia almost never does interviews, and suddenly he is doing back-to-back interviews to push for a new law. He is being rolled out as a puppet of the Biden administration to try and convince Americans that the law needs to be changed to allow men in women's sports. That could be the case. It's very interesting. Let me know in the comments if you think that is the case. It very much could be. It very well could be the case that Lia Thomas is being used by the Biden administration to push Title IX going forward. This meme is very true. A lot of the funniest things in the world are the most truthful things, and this is definitely one of the most truthful things. Shout out to this person, Barra Daddy Ty. I'm not sure who this is, but I just saw this meme pop up on my timeline, and I thought it was very interesting. What the world says toxic masculinity is, it's a pretty muscular, obviously country construction worker or some shit, and it has Mr. Vaney and Lia Thomas and the rest of the people who act very similar to those two. It's true. It's true. It's very much true, especially the Lia Thomas one. I'll be real. That's actual toxic masculinity because it's propagating a narrative that is a danger to women. It's a danger to biological women. It just is. There's no way of getting around it. You can't get past it. Your argument is defeated whenever you look at the cracked skulls by the MMA fighters. It is what it is. And the fact that you are a very mediocre male and then you transition to women's sports and you're just the best. You're the best swimmer in the world. You win everything. You make it totally unfair for everybody else who's been working their entire life to compete in that space, to be the best in that space. And because you have a higher biological athletic capacity than the women do, because you're a male, you transition over to the women's sports and you completely dominate them. It's unfair. It's unfair. It's unsafe. And it needs to be shut down. This whole conversation needs to be shut down. The trans athletes belong in sports thing is completely cringe to even wear that shirt because I don't think anybody is saying to the contrary, anything to the contrary. I'm not, at least. I don't know about you in the comments. Let me know in the comments. I'm not saying anything to the contrary. You can be in sports. Nobody cared when you were in sports previously. You know, nobody cared when Lia Thomas was competing against the men and coming in last place every swim. Nobody cared because we weren't saying that trans athletes don't belong in sports. We were just saying that male athletes don't belong competing against female athletes because it is unfair and unsafe. That's all I'm saying here. Let me know what you guys think, though. Do you agree with me that trans athletes do belong in sports just in their own biological categories, or do you think that they shouldn't belong in sports at all? Let me know what you guys think. Are they fighting ghost here? I think they're fighting ghost here when it comes to these shirts. But, you know, they probably made a lot of money off that. It's probably a pretty good grift. I'll be real with you. But if you could leave a like on the video, I would really appreciate it. If you could leave a comment, let me know your thoughts on what Lia Thomas had to say. He's back with a vengeance. He's back spewing some new BS this time, blaming it on the patriarchy once again. The hatred, the anger is coming from somewhere. It's coming from the patriarchy, according to this cringe lord right here. Let me know what you guys think, though, in the comments about the whole situation.